어디니 tilling what's ready inside coins. We just added TRPC to our project to ensure our types. In this lesson, I suggest creating scripts for project types on the front end and back end. Let's get started. For the back end, we need to create a command which we'll call type. The name is arbitrary, I just like type. And then we need to call the TSC command. It's the same command we use during the build, but with a noemit flag. The noemit flag means we don't need any output files. We just want to check the types. Also, for more clarity, I suggest explicitly specifying the path to our TypeScript config, which will define the rules to check our code. Okay, let's run the check. Backend. For this, we call pnpm type, and we see this output. It indicates there are no errors, IEs. It's literally empty. Now let's take an error and see how it looks. So, let's say we declare a variable x of type, but assign a string to it. Run the type check. We see an error. Great. Type checking on the back end works. Let's add type checking on the front end. It's similar to project. It's config.json, but we have two testconfig here. testconfig.json and testconfig.json. Remember, testconfig.json is needed to build our web application, while testconfig.not.json is needed for working with the white directly, essentially for this particular file. Thus, we need to run this command twice, first for one's config, then for the second. Let's check if it works. pnpm type. All right. Now let's add a similar error and pretend it will catch it. Now the opposite. 40, which we assigned a number. pnpm type. Error caught. Let me show you an example of a more realistic type error that's nice to catch with such scripts. Suppose on the back end, for some reason, we once changed the data returned by one of our endpoints. For example, now the ID has a title instead of a name, and from the backend's perspective, everything is fine. We don't see any errors, we're satisfied, and we think everything is okay. We check the types on the backend, and they are indeed fine. But then we check the types in our web application and see an error. Because in this file, the idea field does not have the property name. We navigate to this file using command click and see that there really is such an error. We wonder why. We hover over idea and see that indeed name doesn't exist, but title does. We can also just click on Get Ideas, go to the backend, figure out why this happened, and make the appropriate adjustments. Or we change it to title here, and there are no more errors. Or we just return everything on the backend as it was, and in this case, that's what we'll do. Let's check the types again. The types are fine. We know what types are returned from the backend thanks to TRPC. And essentially, if our types match, we can be almost sure that our application works well. TypeScript won't protect us from logical errors, but it protects us from type-related errors, allowing us to move quickly and scale the code rapidly. Once something changes, we'll immediately catch all the places that need to be adjusted according to previous changes. We've sorted out the types. Let's move on. Wait a moment, please note. We have a file testconfig.tsbuildinfo. In other words, all other changes are those we wanted to make ourselves, but this file is literally not needed for us. This is a TypeScript system file that is created during the build of projects, where composite true is specified. In fact, it's needed by TypeScript, but we don't need it here at all. And I suggest making it so that it is stored in some other folder that we won't pay attention to. Otherwise, it will just distract us, and it's unclear why we need to see it here. To do this, you need to add this line to this tsconfig. So we tell it that we want this file to be stored in node modules in the .cache folder under this name. Save it again, delete it. Call the web app pnpm types, and we find that this file no longer bothers us. So here it is cleared too. Well then, yes. That's it. Now we're definitely done. Thank you. Let's move on.